Am I the a-hole for praising my son differently than my daughter? And this is all to answer the question, is favoritism expected between a parent and their child? This first story comes from Schattenspringer, and they say, I, 52 male, am the father of 3 kids, 15 female, 7 female, and 7 male. The last 2 are twins and are very close, having the tendency to copy each other. I love and adore them all equally.
Except for one.
Except for one. Except for that one I hate.
That one.
The one that's gone. My son is not a very masculine kid and is less interested in some of my hobbies because of this. He has always preferred whatever his mother and older sister did, like baking or dancing. I have no problem with this. I love him as he is, but to be honest, I'm slightly disappointed that we haven't had the kind of amazing father-son bonding that I got to have with my grandpa. My dad died when I was pretty young, when I was a kid. Since I'm home almost all the time now, I've been seeing just how feminine his interests have gotten. Asking to help cook every meal. Pfft, can't believe cooking. So feminine.
Yeah.
Gordon
God.
Ramsay, most feminine dude I know.
Tommy, the dream. I want to wake up with you. Not with you. No.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people tend to think of cooking in a home as feminine and then cooking in a, like, as a chef.
And Gordon Ramsay never cooks at home.
Well, no,
No, I know what you're saying. I'm making fun of OP for being
yeah,
like,
I know. It's silly. It's silly.
It's a little.
I also think that OP, I don't think that you necessarily have to, like, I don't know why he's limiting himself to these activities to bond.
Exactly. If like you maybe get into cooking so you can hang out with your son more.
Like, I like cooking and Dad doesn't like cooking, but we bond over a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of acting stuff.
Yeah.
But asking to help cook every meal, helping his older sister alter secondhand clothes, and playing pretend. He's even asked to have his sister paint his nails. I'm not upset or bothered by it, but it isn't typical for young boys. I'm getting the vibe that you are a bit upset and bothered.
I don't know if it's just me, but I think he might be upset or bothered by it.
I feel like he may be both upset and bothered.
I don't know. It sounds like he's upset and bothered.
Also, I love how he's like, I can't believe my son is helping cook all the time and helping his sisters with stuff.
He's painting his nails.
What is all this feminine behavior? I want a man that does things for himself. Gosh darn it.
My father would never have done this.
Nuh-uh. If he was going to paint his nails, he'd paint them black because he's going to a metal concert.
He bruised them.
Because he bruised them,
Good
yeah.
manly thing.
The only way my grandpa painted his nails is when he shoved them indoors intentionally to make them bleed. Well, I've been working out at home instead of at the gym because of our current circumstances. And when my son came in while I was lifting weights in the family room, he showed an interest in it. He was excited about the idea of having big muscles and tried out some of the 5-pound ones, even though he mentioned being like She-Ra.
Oh my God, I love She-Ra. I totally get him.
From some new Netflix reboot, I think.
She's so buff.
I haven't seen She-Ra.
Okay, well, there's a new Netflix reboot of She-Ra, and Adora, who is She-Ra, is like super buff.
Lady buff. It was still progress in my eyes, and it seemed like he was showing interest in masculine hobbies. I praised him and did the whole wow, you're so strong thing in kid talk to encourage him. When his sisters walked in, the twin, 7 female, joined in. Like I said, they have a tendency to want to do what the other is doing, so she expected the same kind of wow, so strong stuff. When I wasn't as enthusiastic with her and focused on my son, my oldest got annoyed and asked why I was treating them differently. I explained to her that because he hadn't taken an interest in these kind of masculine hobbies before, I wanted to foster his own identity as a boy separate from his twin sister. She accused me of being misogynistic for this! Exclamation point.
He's like, what's misogynistic about that?
Yeah, I just think boys should do boy things and girls should do girl things.
And the second I noticed my boy wanted to do boy things, I capitalized on that.
I'm going to make sure he does only boy things from now on. Under my roof. Really quick, I feel like there is a misguided point in like wanting each of your kids to have their own thing so they don't feel like they're in someone else's shadow. But I don't feel like this is doing that.
Yes. I think that there is a benefit in exploring different, like, what you said, exploring different things with different kids so that you have like a different relationship with them. But gendering that is not necessary.
Yeah, it should just be like,
this kid is into horses.
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
do horse things. This kid is into soccer.
I think it's okay for them to be into the same thing. Anyway,
Also, yeah, I mean, they're twins, so
obviously they're gonna want to do similar stuff, and they probably like doing that stuff together.
yeah. I mean, they're usually, I feel like a lot of parents like push twins doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they even dress them the same way,
yeah.
which I feel like I don't know about that.
I get like maybe
Maybe
it's
once
just
a year
easy.
for family photos.
I don't know why. If you're a parent or a twin that's been dressed the same, why? I want to
It's
know.
cute, obviously.
No, but like, yeah, okay.
Well, she then said that I was the a-hole for making his sister feel weaker and implying that I don't approve of his feminine interests. I don't think I'm the a-hole because there's no reason for my daughter to be inclined towards this kind of thing, but my son should be developing a more masculine personality as he gets older. When she told my wife, 41 female, she also blew up at me, saying I was acting like a cartoon misogynist. Both of them are pissed. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And there are some notable comments and some updates. But what do we think? Is OP the a-hole?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
It seems he really doesn't understand.
Like that is what is, I think, there's opportunity for learning here.
Yes.
I think, because I think he is totally, like he's blatantly unaware.
He's like, what do you mean? He's just going to be supposed to be more masculine.
Yeah,
now.
boys should be boys, girls should be girls. Boys
Yeah.
shouldn't be into like clothes and
Yeah, that's
cooking.
just the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. I think there is a potential for
Growth.
OP to have a wider perspective on like, interests don't have to be gendered. If my boy ends up becoming more and more interested in cooking as he gets older, that is completely fine and maybe should be encouraged.
Yeah. I think OP is the a-hole right now, but I think that his continued a-holery depends on how he handles this. Like, he's not like irredeemable a-hole quite yet.
Exactly. And the fact that he's even asking like, am I the a-hole? I think he's actually trying to figure this out.
Yes.
I think the comments are going to be like, duh.
Duh,
Yeah,
you're the a-hole.
And here's why.
Yeah.
Here's maybe some context of like how I grew up. And I think what I hope we get is like, hey, I had a dad that was like you, that forced me into masculine hobbies. And it actually really hurt our relationship. If he had just done this, like, as Tyler says, taken the gender out of it and just supported me as a person instead of as an object that's supposed to represent some kind of gender, maybe I would have a closer relationship with him than I do now.
Agreed. I mean, again, I said this before, just Sam and I have very deep bonds with our dad for different, in different areas.
And also, it's like, does he have a deep bond with
A 7-year-old?
the girls?
That's also true. Is he focusing on his bond with his son and prioritizing that over his girls?
Like, I'm wondering, because he's like, oh, I haven't had the chance to develop any of like my masculine hobbies with a child. So I'm wondering, like,
does he have any feminine hobbies that he would like?
Does he spend time with his daughters?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, because it seems right now we had an instance where both of his kids, his daughter and his son, came forward and were like, we have an interest, and he prioritized his son over it.
I see one comment that says not the a-hole. I would love to see if there's some silence of people saying not the a-hole at all. So maybe we put up a poll.
Sure.
I feel like it's probably going to be mostly a-hole, but
I think so.
Is OP the a-hole? Yes or no? Let's see. But we do have a relevant comment that I'm going to read right now. So, notable comments. I'm slightly disappointed that we haven't had the kind of amazing father-son bonding that I got to have with my grandpa. So this is a commenter responding to OP. Commenter responds, that's on you, OP. You meet your kids where they are. I think that's a great quote. It's almost like your kids are each individual people with their own likes and dislikes. Wow, crazy. You build close relationships with love, compassion, and understanding. You are never going to get the closeness you want with your children until you accept and love them for who they are. If you keep wanting them to be different so that you can accept them, you will truly miss out. Your kids are amazing, unique, and beautiful human beings. Love them as they are. Stop with the expectations and give them unconditional love. This isn't about them. It's about you and your preconceived notions of who they should be. This would get you nowhere. And that comes from I Choose You, Snorlax. There's some more relevant comments, but I love that. That's a beautiful comment.
I think that was really well put, and I appreciate that it wasn't the same kind of attacking that we see on Reddit a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think
that's the best kind of feedback to give. Like Dixie Blue Steel says, Dixie Blue says, my dad is just a jerk. But like if we were to just say, OP, you're a jerk. How dare you? You're terrible. Yeah. Like there's nothing really to do there, you know? Yeah. Like except like, oh, I guess I'm a jerk, but it's not really informing someone how to change and grow.
Yeah. Which isn't to say that I think he absolutely is the a-hole and he is a jerk in this moment. But right now he's asking why?
Why? Yeah. Am I a jerk? And
am
why?
I? Yeah.
And I think we say, yes, you're the a-hole and a jerk. And this is how you change. And I think that's what that comment does really well. Oh, no. Oh, not an expert says, you're the a-hole. My initial reaction was no, you just got excited. You found a common interest with your son. But then you get to the last few lines of the post. Quote, because there's no reason for my daughter to be inclined towards this kind of thing, but my son should be developing a more masculine personality as he gets older. The fact that she has no reason, quote, for an interest in lifting and that you think your son needs to have a more masculine identity is misogynistic and a little toxic. Plenty of professional chefs and designers are men. Your overall perception is the problem. And then deleted user. Okay, here we have some not the a-holes. Which I am curious. So right now, looking at our poll, maybe we can end it right now. 95% of you are saying OP is the a-hole. 5% or 4% of you are saying no, which is, I believe, maybe like two people. But deleted user says, F it, not the a-hole. I completely understand you as a father wanting your son to be into stereotypical masculine hobbies. It strengthens your relationship with him because you're into those things and will help him have a better relationship with other boys. But there's no reason not to show your daughter the same enthusiasm. So that's my point of advice to you. I think I understand, like, I wish he was into the things I'm into. I think I understand that, but I don't think you need to gender that.
Yeah. That's the thing. His daughter's coming to him and is into those things.
Exactly.
Like you should be excited that you get to share what you enjoy with one of your kids.
I think that is when we know it's about misogyny and not that he's just like, oh, I wish they were into the same things that I'm into so I could share this with them. It's more like, no. I only want my son to be in the same masculine hobbies that I have, not my daughter.
Yeah.
Another person says, not the a-hole. Obviously, you should support your daughters as well, but there's nothing wrong with creating some space to bond with your son man to man as well. I think there's nothing wrong with, like, let's say you're into camping or you're into motorcycles or, I don't know, throwing darts, man stuff, I guess, or what people think of like stereotypical man stuff. You could introduce your son to those and be like, hey, if you want to do this with me, sick, like have fun. You could, and as you should introduce your daughters to that stuff too.
I think that's where I would be. I think if you introduce all of your kids, you take them all on a camping trip and 1 out of 3 is like, I'm on board and the other 2 hate it. That's when you can start spending time camping with that one,
Yeah, exactly. Like take them all camping. Yeah. If one kid is like, I love camping. The other 2 are like, I hate it. Then keep taking the kid that loves camping too. I think as parents, you introduce your kids to the wide possibilities of things to do in this world. And then when they say, I like this, you encourage them towards that.
Yeah, I agree. You are to act like high school acts for a prospective college student. Like you're giving them all of this array of classes and options to choose for as they enter college, or they like decide what they want to go to for college, and they have all these options. This doesn't really make sense.
No, I agree. It's like I think
explain what I just said.
I think as a parent, you should in the same way when in high school, a teacher will look at an interest, like for example, in high school for me, my teachers would be like, oh, Sam likes to make videos. Instead of doing an essay, you can make a video. Yeah. And they were cultivating my interest in videos while also making sure I was educated about the topic, right? So I think in the same way, good parents do this. And this is what my parents did too. Like they knew I was interested in videos when I was like 12. And so they got me like a little flip video camera. They got me editing software. It's like, all right, let's keep feeding this interest and allow your child to explore it more when they show signs of it.
And also on the opposite, I mean, they also did that for me with acting, but on the opposite end, Sam and I were both pushed into a variety of different sports.
And
Sam and I did
Sophia
swimming.
was equally like Sophia was pushed into swimming, and Sophia hated it.
Hated it. I would like blue. Cry to get out of the pool. I hated it, but I was put in the same sports as Sam, and then I was switched to like 7 different sports until I found the one I liked. And I ended up really loving ballet. Not because, I as a girl should do ballet, but because I found it much more, I don't know, I think I found it more fulfilling than I had found other sports that I had tried.
Agreed. And I
think on the opposite end, if Sam had, really, you started with like gymnastics. If you had really loved gymnastics over swimming. I did
love gymnastics.
Why did you say it's gymnastics?
I don't remember. I honestly wish I did gymnastics instead of swimming because I could have done so many cool flips. Anyway, let's get into the update.
Let's take a quick pause on this story right here. Gotta tell you something.
Okay.
I've been reading so many stories.
We were calculating it actually. Yeah.
72,800. No, 80.
85 and 600 minutes.
I'm starting to feel the effects.
Like what?
My lips are cracking.
Oh no.
Because I have to open my mouth every day.
Oh God.
My eyes are drying up.
I would cry for you, but I can't.
I have no tears left to cry.
Is there anything we can do to possibly help heal your ailments?
There's one.
What is it?
ZocDoc.
ZocDoc! ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and choose the right one for your needs and click instantly to book an appointment.
We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty. From mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more.
You can filter your doctors who take your insurance, who are located nearby, who are a good fit for any medical need that you might have, and who are highly rated by verified patients.
You can also see their actual appointment openings, choose a time that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit.
Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast! Lickety-split. Typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, you can even score some same-day appointments. It's pretty great, right?
It's pretty amazing.
Listen, Sophia, I use ZocDoc, we use ZocDoc. You should freaking use it too, guys. Use ZocDoc.
So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/OKOP to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/OKOP, ZocDoc.com/OKOP. Let's get back into the show.
May 25th, 2020, 5 hours later.
Whoa.
Added under the first posting 5 hours later. So, hey everyone, I was 100% the a-hole.
He figured that out so quickly.
Good for him.
That's great. This is amazing. He wrote a Reddit post, got tons of people saying you're the a-hole. 5 hours later, he's like, you know what? I am the a-hole.
Let's go.
That's what we want.
Growth, baby. I appreciate that some people tried to empathize and say not the a-hole or no a-holes here to be charitable, but I'm in the wrong here and I knew it deep down while I was writing the post. Rereading it, I feel ridiculous for writing that all out. I want to say thank you because these comments were the objective kick in the booty I really needed. I realize now that I was really out of line for saying that stuff and making my daughters feel that way. I set up a stupid false dichotomy and my daughter was very right. I was being a misogynist. No excuse for that. I apologized to both of them and my wife an hour after I posted. I also shared this post with my little brother who, as I mentioned in a comment, was teased for being effeminate as a kid/teen. Especially after he came out. I think some people took me mentioning that as blaming him, which wasn't my intention at all. None of my behavior is his or anybody else's fault. We talked for a while, and that, along with many of the comments you guys left, made me aware of how badly I'm treating my son. My grandpa, who raised my brother and I for most of our lives, was a manly guy who I've always idolized completely. Well, my brother made me aware that my grandpa in particular made him feel crappy about his femininity and sexual orientation. He would regularly say degrading, terrible things. I was oblivious to just how much that hurt him. And it seems that I've picked up some of these same ideas. I've been such a for so long. And now that I realize how absurd some of these ideas are that I've held on to, I know how much of a disservice I've done to my boy. I shouldn't try to make him change just to protect him from bullies. In this situation, I'm the bully as much as it hurts to think. Also, we read a story a little bit ago where a whole friend group was like mostly gay and were kind of bullying OP for being straight. And like, this kind of sounds weird to say, but I think in at least certain like liberal cities, you can be bullied more for being straight than gay, which sounds kind of whack.
I don't know about liberal cities, maybe liberal circles.
Liberal circles, and like, or at least in that example. So it's like, I actually don't think you're gonna have to protect. I think a person fully embodying their identity is more accepted than ever before.
Yeah.
So I don't think like
definitely than ever before.
Yeah. So I don't think OP has to worry about that.
I think that is a common fear for not homophobic parents, but parents who weren't necessarily raised that way of like acceptance and are coming into it and are learning about accepting like queer communities and stuff through their kids. I think it's like the fear of, are they going to be happy? Are they going to be able to live a good life?
And I think it's like, yeah, you are.
I mean, this is
like,
as you said, like now more than ever.
The gays are thriving.
And obviously, I mean, there are still there's still things out there that the queer community is having to deal with.
Of course.
And
like Gabe Elijah says,
well,
it's kind of not for trans folks.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that this fear from parents who, as I said, this fear of parents who are just like starting to accept, being introduced to this queer community through their kids, I think that fear should not override like their kids
embodying their identity.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think as a parent, what you should do is you should support your child in the expression of their identity as much as you can.
Yeah. I guess, my point is, I think if you had a trans child, it would be not good for you to say, hide who you are because you might get attacked. It should be you supporting them.
Yeah. And also like showing them how they can be themselves safely too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
and
is
being
part of
there
it.
as an ally to make sure they don't get attacked.
And also, we realize that not everywhere is the US and not everywhere is like a place like LA.
Absolutely.
And so there is some ways that you like,
you cannot safely be out.
Yeah.
But being a person, like when you are an ally, being a person that is a safe space for your queer friends and family.
And Sophia Callan says, but he could be straight and like girly things.
This is about his, he has another, so he has two sons, one of which is gay.
Yes. I thought it was
he said,
the brother. His brother is gay.
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
Not his.
Okay,
son.
okay, gotcha.
It's also like his son's 7. I feel like, stamping him with
Yeah,
sexuality
yeah.
is maybe premature.
I thought he was saying that the older son, but I guess that it's an older daughter.
But getting in to this there is another juicy update after this, but I'm planning on talking with him about this issue and apologizing if we can this week. I want to let him choose something that he likes that we can do together. I'm not going to make the same mistakes my grandpa did. At my brother's and some Redditor suggestions, I'm considering trying out therapy or a support group. After a mistake, huge F up like this, I think I ought to try to be the best dad and big brother I can be and to stop thinking this way, especially when I've already done so much damage. I'm sorry about the extremely long edit, but thank you for all of your responses and helping me with this issue. I showed my wife some of the comments and she also thanks you all. And there are some notable comments and another update. So, notable comment. I am impressed as hell that you are self-aware enough to know when you've effed up and are working on self-improvement. You, my anon internet friend, have restored my faith in humanity. And then another commenter, Ash Jess, says, on the off chance you see this, I know you're swarmed. Lol. Just know I think you have matured so well. Everyone needs a chance to grow, even in their middle ages. That's the fun of it. And for your son who might like fixing up old clothes, maybe look into going into a sewing class at a craft store in your area. They're super fun and informative. Just make sure he's old enough for them. Congrats on having a super talented dude. That's what's really cool. It's like you could have a kid that's interested in stuff that's totally different than you, and then you can get into that with them and explore that with them like equally.
Yeah.
Like my dad, I got into surfing. My dad didn't really know how to surf that much, but he started going surfing with me because he wanted to support that. But we have the final update. So 15 hours later, this will probably be the final update, but wow, I'm overwhelmed with all the responses. I wasn't expecting so many. Thank you to everyone. I'm glad you guys were honest, but still encouraging. I'm sorry I haven't been able to reply to you all. I got a lot of really kind and personal messages, and I want you guys to know I've taken it to heart. Some people asked what I'm going to do with my daughter since it seems like I focus more on my son in the edit. My oldest wants to try Krav Maga.
Yes.
So in the coming weeks, we're hoping to find a place that'll accommodate both ages. Youngest daughter has wanted to learn how to roller skate too, so my 15-year-old may have to teach us both. I was able to talk to my son for a while this morning and apologizing for yesterday, talking about gender roles and the trauma surrounding my grandpa. Maybe something I'll talk to him more about as he gets older, but I got the message across that I support him whatever he's interested in. I asked him about She-Ra. Some commenters told me that it's fun for adults too. And we watched a few episodes together. You guys were right. My oldest and I both thought it was very cute. I asked him what he would want to do together, and he mentioned trying to alter something. I brought down a box of my old stuff from the attic, and lo and behold, I found one of my 80s Hawaiian shirts my grandpa bought me, probably an effort to make him look like Tom Selleck. With some guidance from my oldest, we're going to try to make it fit my son with room for him to grow into it. I think it'll turn out nicely, and because it's really vintage, my 15-year-old loves it. So everything is pretty good right now. I invited my brother over, he lives a few hours away, for dinner so my son and I can make him something. I can't believe that I was feeling upset about him liking baking and everything. I'm lucky that my boy wants to help everyone. So I'm definitely the a-hole, but I'm slowly becoming not the a-hole.
Yes.
Thank you all. I showed my oldest some of my favorite comments, and she thinks they're great, and I should expect a Clown of the Year award for a Father's Day gift. Ha ha. And that is where that story ends.
So positive.
Yeah, I feel like what I love about this is it's just like, this is exactly what we want. We want someone coming in, being an a-hole, and then coming out not. We are a-hole converters to not be a-holes. Gabe Elijah says this was a cute story in terms of growth.
Really cute.
Darn tootin' Vladimir Putin.
What?
I like saying it. Or like, that's the right tune, Kim Jong-un. A-hole converter.
That's
sounds like a corn title. City without kidneys. So getting back to it, is favoritism expected between a parent and their children?
What are your thoughts in this story?
I think in this story, we kind of learned that no.
Yeah,
I mean, you should actively, if there is favoritism, you should actively move against it.
Yeah, and I think it's a common thing that, I mean, from the story we learned that a lot of parents, like this dad, will place emphasis on like gender roles and exploring gendered activities with their kids. And I think that, what we learn is that you gotta just take your kids for who they are and find different things that interest all of them that you can enjoy doing with them.
Completely agree. But you know what else I agree with?
What do you
get into this next story?
Woo!
My wife has been playing favorites with our kids. How do I fix this? And this is all answering the question, is favoritism expected between a parent and their children? The second story comes from Tef Measurements 345, and they say, my wife has always been the one to cook around the house, and as an Italian, it's one of the reasons I fell so hard for her. I've offered to help out in the kitchen or even cook a few times, but she's always firmly yet politely told me no, and I can't really blame her because I did not get either of my parents' good cooking genes. Because of this, I've always been sure to thank her for every meal, and I've taught my children to do the same. For the past year or so, my son has been watching a ton of cooking videos on YouTube and TikTok, and he's really been wanting to try his hand at cooking. My wife was happy to teach him, and at least twice a week, the two of them will go out to the store, buy ingredients for a meal he found on TikTok, and come home and make it. It's been awesome seeing them bond more since they haven't really had much overlap in interest before this. Well, about a month ago after dinner, my son asked his mom if he could try making us all a meal on his own. I said it sounded like a great idea, and she hemmed and hawed for a little while before agreeing. So that Saturday, she took him to the store to get his ingredients. Then he got to work. She supervised here and there, but he insisted that she didn't need to. So eventually she came to the living room and sat with my daughter and I looking a little bit dejected. So I assured her that I was sure he'll still want to cook with her. He just wanted to try it out on his own. That seemed to help a little, but she still seemed a bit off. When he finished and we all sat down to eat, I was honestly surprised at just how good he managed to do on his own. I feel bad for saying it, but even after a year or so of cooking with his mother, I expected him to mess up more than he did. I wanted to encourage this interest of his, so I was sure to let him know while I was eating how good he did and gently bring up a few mistakes he had made. I did a lot more than I usually would with my wife's cooking, and in hindsight, I can see that that's what started all of this. His sister, being his little sister, was not as supportive as I was and quite rudely insulted his cooking.
Aww.
I was going to tell her to mind her manners and be thankful that he cooked for us when my wife made a sound and pushed her plate away before agreeing and saying that it was too salty and overcooked.
Why would you ever say that to your child who is, even if it was salty and overcooked? Why would you ever say that to a kid?
Also, like, push it away.
Yeah. Someone who's spent time, their first time doing it alone, and you push it away and you insult it.
Yeah, and
that makes me feel so sad.
Also, to be clear of the ages, so my 38 male, a stay-at-home wife, 40 female, has been treating our son, 12 male, poorly and favoring our daughter, 9 female.
This is a 12-year-old.
Ever since I complimented his cooking. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think you can give feedback uncruelly.
Absolutely.
And the mom is giving it cruelly.
Yeah, you can be like, great job on your first try. Like, let's keep working at this.
This took me aback, and I could tell my son took it hard too, and his mood visibly dropped. I didn't say anything at the time, and since my wife and I never argue in front of the kids, I just kept up the praise of my son's cooking, and his mother picked up the plate for a little while before she took her and her daughter's plates to the kitchen. A little while later, I went to check on my son, and I could tell that he had been crying, so I comforted him. I told him I was sure his mother loved the food and that she was probably just having a bad day and to not take it personally. Then later, once the kids were asleep, I confronted her about it, and she tried to just brush it off, but I pushed, and she got mad and said that I complimented his cooking far more than I ever complimented hers.
Okay, you're not a 12-year-old.
Yeah, but Shabang Bang says jealousy is real in all ages. So
she's like, very jealous.
She's very jealous. She's very jealous.
Yeah.
So this caught me off guard since I didn't expect my wife to be jealous of her son, and I unfortunately let out an involuntary scoff at this. She blew up at me for laughing, and we ended up arguing for a while before eventually I managed to explain that I was complimenting him so much because I wanted to encourage him to keep cooking, and she even admitted that she shouldn't have been so harsh about it. She said she would apologize, and I figured everything was settled.
Oh no.
But is it settled?
Oh no.
Is it settled? I don't think so. This Monday when I was driving my son to school, I noticed he wasn't acting normal and looking out the window trying to hide his face from me. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me he was fine. But I could tell he was fighting back tears, so I asked him again, and he broke down and told me that after I had left to get the car started, she told him that she was going to be cooking alone again from now on.
I hate this woman.
I have a conspiracy theory. She's a stay-at-home mom whose husband fell for her because of her cooking. So literally, like, her entire identity, both as a like provider in the relationship and to the kid, and also just like in terms of love, it's all coming from cooking.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this thing that was my connection to my husband is being taken from my son, which is like totally like, it's not the right way to think about this at all. But I think that's probably what she's feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, especially, it was kind of telling for me when OP said that she wouldn't let him in the kitchen to help. Because I think even if you're not a good cook, I think that there still should be an emphasis put on like learning.
She's trying to gatekeep cooking.
Yeah, she's like, no, this is my domain and I'm gonna, have complete control over it. And anyone who like encroaches on it is a enemy. Even her own son.
Even her own son.
Yeah.
So she told me that she was going to be cooking alone again from now on. I was furious about this, but kept my cool and told him I would talk to her about it, bought him a snack from the store before dropping him off at school. I left work early so I could get home before the kids and talk to my wife. I'll admit, I didn't handle it as well as I could have, and we ended up in a shouting match where I was calling her childish for being so vindictive towards our son because she was upset with me, and she called him a baby and said he shouldn't be so sad about not being allowed to cook since it wasn't a man's job to do so anyway.
I don't understand this. You're gonna tell me you're gonna go up to Gordon Ramsay? You're gonna go up to Gordon Ramsay and say that he's not a manly man?
I think also this is just an important reminder: women can be misogynists too.
Oh well, yeah, it's internalized misogyny. She has this idea that only women should be in the kitchen, and so she's enforcing that.
Yeah,
upon herself.
I think we got a little stinky woman action over here.
Very stinky.
A little stinky woman. I also like this man is the complete opposite of the last story, but the woman is the complete embodiment of those values.
Yes. Yeah. You're gonna tell me that you're gonna go up to Carmi from the Bear, tell him he's not a manly man?
Bro, Have you seen that Calvin Klein thing?
That's a manly man.
That's a manly man.
That's a manly man.
That is a manly man who cooks some manly man food. So we ended up leaving each other alone to cook. Oh, cook. Let them cook. We ended up leaving each other alone to let them cook.
Let him cook.
We ended up leaving each other alone to cool down. And when our kids got home, my wife took our daughter out and came back later with a load of toys and clothes for her. She's literally doubling down.
Yeah.
She's doubling down on this like kid favoritism.
Yeah, she's rewarding her daughter for going with what she like with her ideas of what a.
Well, she's basically punishing the son
Yes.
for crying by rewarding the daughter for not.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew immediately what she was trying to do. And that night, I told her that I would not let her use the money I make for our family to punish my son, which I don't know if you could say either, but you could say like, you should not use our family's money to punish our son.
For doing a nice thing.
For doing it. He literally is cooking
He
for the
cooks for
family.
you. I don't understand. And also a lot of people are saying
Divorce. Yeah. Is this, chat.
Cool.
Is this a divorce-worthy offense? Divorce or not? Put your answers. I feel like she's escalating. So there may be a point where it becomes divorce-worthy. I don't know if it's there yet, but
yeah. But I think if it continues down this path, it is a complete. They just have completely different ideas of how parenting.
Yeah. The F, yeah.
Yeah, it's like in Aristocats when the little girl cat she gets in fights with her brothers and Duchess the mom she's like, ladies don't start fights, and the little girl cat's like, I don't start fights, but I finish them.
Yeah. So she didn't take this well, and we ended up arguing again. I slept in the guest room and have been up to this point. For this past month, my wife has kept up this vindictive showering of our daughter with attention and gifts while almost entirely ignoring my son. I've been talking to my parents and brother about this, and while they agree she's wrong, they also don't see it as that big of a problem and think it'll sort itself out. At this point, with how she's been treating our son, I'm starting to fall out of love with her. Divorce.
I mean, a month of treatment.
Yeah, this isn't just like a slip up.
No,
like,
this is, yeah.
Last story, slip up. Guy
Slip
was
up?
like, oh.
5 hours later.
5 hours later was like, oh crap, I can't believe what I've done.
Completely reworked his ideas about gender.
This person, yeah, exactly. Like 5 hours later, misogyny. Who? That was me 5 hours in the past.
The patriarchy is actually behind all of the world's problems.
Yeah, but I feel like in the last story, it's like, oh, I realize I'm wrong. But what he didn't say like I'm absolved. He says, oh, I realize I'm wrong. I now have work to do.
Yeah.
Which is like the best thing to do. It's like, wow, I'm wrong. Perspective change. Now let's work on actually
fixing my relationship with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But this person,
she's doubling
down on all the worst things that she could do. But I also don't want to jump to divorce if there's something that I can do to fix this whole situation. I can honestly say that we've never had a fight this big. Sure, we bicker every now and then, but she's never taken that out on my son in the past. I feel responsible and guilty about what happened, and I've been trying to do nice things for my son when I can, but I also don't want to mirror my wife's behavior, so I've been taking my daughter with us about half the time to go to the places, but whenever we do, she's been very rude and always talks about all the stuff her mother does for her lately because she knows it bothers her brother, which is like basically the daughter has already had these predilections to be mean to her brother. And instead of the parents shutting that down and saying, no, you should not be
she's
rude,
rewarding it.
She is rewarding it. Exactly. Seeing the way my wife has been treating our son has made me second guess our marriage, but I don't want to jump straight to divorce either. Any advice on what to do or how to best bring up the topic of therapy would be appreciated. There are some relevant comments and a fat, juicy, thick update. But yeah, what do you think OP should do? So OP does not want a divorce, although 80% of you say it is divorce worthy.
I think it is divorce
in the chat. I think after a month.
I think after a month that gets into divorce.
And you know what you could even do? It's like, hey, maybe this is the start of divorce territory where
separation.
It's like, hey, I am say what you're saying here. I am falling out of love with you because of how you're treating your son. If this keeps happening, I feel like I don't know if I can be with you anymore.
I don't know if I can continue this marriage, and I don't know if I feel comfortable having you take care of our kid.
And I want to work on this. Let's go to therapy.
Yeah.
Let's figure something out. But yeah, I mean, it is getting pretty bad.
Yeah.
But there could also be like this fear of, okay, if when OP brought it to
his family,
when OP brought it to his wife the first time, she doubled down on the treatment. Does she triple down now that she feels like her marriage is falling apart?
Maybe. I think there's that fear. I think I was also going to say there's a fear of he had already talked to his other family members and they had said, oh, it's not a big deal. So I think there might be a doubting it.
Yeah, but I think the relevant comments should help him figure it out. So relevant comments: OP on having conversations with his wife about their son's feelings and OP's concerns on her behavior. OP responds, "Thank you very much. I've tried with her about the whole situation multiple times, but she's very quick to dismiss me and my concerns. So hopefully using some of these ideas you've given me can help. Quite frankly, the whole cooking is a woman's job thing really blew my mind, since she's never said anything like that before and even used to fight with her mother about those kinds of comments when mother-in-law would make them about our daughter and nieces. I'm unsure if she genuinely feels that way or is just pulling stuff out of the air in the heat of the moment."
Conspiracy theory, what if the mother-in-law is like putting these things into her mind?
I mean, through raising her or now?
Now. Because if
I don't think so, because I feel like the reaction was so instant.
Yeah.
In when
I still
when
think she's the
cooking.
a-hole regardless, to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
wondering
think so
if maybe she's listening to her mother.
Definitely, maybe a lot of her feelings are backed up
by her mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she's having these feelings.
Yeah.
But update. This is June 13th, 2024, so not that long ago. Obligatory but genuine. Thank you all for the support, even the comments that got a bit nasty. That kind of pushback helped me to realize and see things were a lot worse than I realized. Some of you could do with being a bit nicer, but the advice is appreciated all the same. Short recap. My wife and son cooked dinner together most nights for about a year. My son wanted to try cooking dinner on his own, which my wife accepted, but started acting funny. She ended up rudely criticizing his meal. Then the next day, she told him that she would do the cooking on her own from then on. And after I confronted her about this, she started neglecting/emotionally abusing him while shoveling positivity on our daughter. Well, the first thing I did after making my previous post was take my son to my parents' house to tell them what was happening from his mouth. I figured they may be more receptive to seeing the pain their grandson was going through and not just write it off like they had with me. They ended up being understanding and supportive of my next move, which was kicking my wife out till she worked through whatever problem she was going through. Can he just do that?
Do what?
Just kick her out of the house?
I don't know.
Because it's like, if they're married, it's her house too, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's a good idea, but
Yeah.
I'm curious how he got her to agree with that.
Well, maybe he was like, get out of my house.
Maybe. I don't know. That doesn't seem like OP though, based
No,
on
it doesn't.
what we know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Anyway, next I went to a lawyer and consulted with him. He told me it would be best to have the papers ready to go, even if I wasn't sure I wanted a divorce yet, because it's better to get it done as quick as possible if I decided to go through with it, because in Canada, you have to separate for a year or prove abuse or adultery.
Oh, to divorce?
To divorce.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think we read about that in I've heard about that from Canada in a previous story.
That feels strange to
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like it could it's like prove that you want to divorce for,
but
maybe it like prevents like a divorce annulments or something.
I don't know. I feel like if you want to spend the money on the divorce,
Do it.
do it.
Yeah. Well, I took the kids to my folks' house the next Saturday and came back with my mother. I let her talk with my wife first. Then when they were done, I told her that I needed to leave the house until she sorted out whatever was causing her to act this way to our son. She surprisingly agreed to this. I'm guessing hearing things from my mother knocked some sense into her, as they were always quite close. I told her that my parents were willing to let her stay there during the time because her parents lived too far away, or I could put her up in a nearby motel. I would also pay for her to see a therapist every week, which I told her was mandatory for fixing things. Our kids spent the night with my parents and we moved her out the next day. We both sat with the kids and told them what was happening. Our son understood, but our daughter didn't and was quite upset, but eventually we calmed her down. Things went well for the first month or so. She went to all the weekly appointments and I met her for dinner a few nights a week with the kids, and she seemed to be treating our son properly again. I was really hopeful that she had been making progress. I see you if you see where this is going.
Oh no.
Then the Friday after her 5th therapy appointment, she sent me a wall of text messages about how I was the a-hole and I was trying to steal her children from her and how I was probably effing someone on the side. I tried calling her to see what she was talking about, but I think she shut her phone off. I called my mother and she told me that my wife had left the house earlier that day with all her stuff without saying anything to my mom.
What is going on?
I'm not 100% sure what happened next since my wife has refused to tell me most details and I can't get in contact with the friends she was with. The best I can piece together was that she had told her best friend about what was happening and that my friend started telling her all about how I was just trying to kick her out and steal her kids. She then moved in with her friend and went on a week-long bender of clubbing, drinking, and substances. When we were younger, we did our fair share of stupid crap together. So while this was surprising, it was most likely her dumb friends convincing her to relive the glory days. And she probably, I'm guessing she cheated. Kimberly Fine says, fish market and the wife isn't a sushi chef. Yeah, she's stinky. She's stinky. I hadn't heard anything from her for about a week. Then I got a text from her friend telling me I was a loser, that my wife was too good for me, and that she was effing a younger guy.
Whoa!
Called
What?
Called it.
This wife literally just had like a breakdown because what just happened? How did we
I
get
tried to demand she give my wife the phone so I could talk with her, but I never got a reply. I screenshotted the text for evidence if I needed it. I ended up getting a call from the hospital at like 3 a.m. that Sunday. My wife had OD'd on something and was dropped off at the ER by someone who didn't stick around. Since I was her emergency contact, they reached out to me. I called my mom to come watch the kids and headed over there. They managed to get her stabilized and were treating her. I stuck around for a few hours and she was in and out of consciousness. And when she wasn't very talkative. When she properly woke up, she started apologizing for everything. And that's when I found out the few details I know about her friend and the bender. I asked her if she had been effing someone else like her friend said, and she didn't reply, which was much of an answer as I needed. She kept trying to apologize, and I just kept my cool and told her this wasn't the time or the place for this. Oh man, we are circling the end of this story right now. John is coming in for the finale, but John, it is
OP's the a-hole.
It is.
OP is in fact not the.
OP is not the a-hole.
I totally disagree.
So you're getting in on a dark section.
Yeah.
You're getting in on a dark section.
Oh.
But basically, TLDR for John. So OP and his wife are 40s. OP's wife is a stay-at-home mom. OP fell in love with her because of her cooking, and she's like a really good cook. That's kind of like where she senses a lot of identity.
Right.
Her 12-year-old son started showing an interest in cooking, and they cooked together like every night for a year. And then her son was like, I would like to cook dinner alone today. And she was like, okay. And then she started to get super jealous of the son because he wanted to cook more alone and started being actively an a-hole to the son, like saying really mean things about the cooking. And then OP's wife.
Right.
OP's wife was actively saying like really mean things about the cooking. And then the daughter was being mean to OP's son as well. And the wife encouraged the daughter and then spoiled her with like toys and stuff. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. Then OP's like, hey, I'm falling out of love with you. If you don't fix this, our marriage is going to be over.
Yeah.
And said like, hey, you go away while you work on it. Then she went to a friend's, went to a bender, probably cheated on him and just OD'd, ended up in the hospital. And OP was her emergency contact.
And that's how he finds out.
That's how he finds out that she knew apparently her friend had said something earlier. And it was like, hey, your wife is effing a much younger guy. She doesn't need you. Which terrible friend. But
you weren't lying. Okay, please.
Yeah.
Yes, tell me. Read me.
So we ended up leaving at about 8 a.m. the next day. I got her back to my parents' place, got her into bed, and just before I left, I put the papers on the table beside the bed and told her that I expected her to sign them within the week and that I had proof she cheated on me during her bender. I had told my parents I was planning on doing this on the phone, so I wasn't just dumping this drama on them without warning. The kids are both doing fine. They don't know anything of what happened with their mother or the divorce. All they know is that my wife is still moved out and that she's busy getting better, so we're not going to see her as much. I'll probably tell them in a couple of weeks whenever school lets out for the summer so it doesn't affect their learning. Over the next couple of weeks, I've gotten countless calls from her, ranging from begging for a second chance, to screaming at me that she hated me and she was going to make my life hell, going back and forth every other day. I've also been getting vitriolic texts from her family and friends calling me all sorts of names and threatening that if I don't drop the divorce, I'll regret it, all of which have been screenshotted, which probably contributes to the abuse clause of the divorce thing, because in Canada, you have to be separated for a year before getting divorced unless you can prove abuse or infidelity. And OP kind of has both.
Right.
The full package.
He's like, great.
My parents agree that divorce is the best, but they're questioning my timing and wondering if I should have picked a better time to do this than when she is fresh out of the hospital. I'm 100% sure I want her out of my life, and I plan on going for full custody of my children, as I don't want them around my wife if this behavior is what she's willing to stoop to. And while I do want it to be done as soon as possible, I'm wondering if I should take back the papers and tell her I've changed my mind, at least until she's a bit more stable. Edit, I saw comments suggesting I take my kids to therapy to explain the situation to them. I have a session set up with a therapist in a week. Just wanted to wait a tiny bit longer for their school to be finished as soon as possible. I forgot to include it when I first typed it out. An irrelevant comment and a response from OP to close us out. Miss Turk 2020 says, absolutely do not take back the papers. Your marriage is over, and she killed it. She kept stabbing the marriage until it just died. OP gave her so many chances, and she's like, no, this dies now.
Jeez.
She needs to take accountability for what she did, and you are trying to get her off the hook. In my opinion, I would advise your lawyer what's going on and listen and follow the advice given. You should be filing for full custody, in my opinion. You can always loosen restrictions later. And I think that's an important point where it's like, you file for full custody so you can control the situation, especially if your partner is not mentally there.
Especially with kids. Yeah.
And OP responds, yeah, after I served for the papers, I got in contact with him again, and I've been telling him everything that has been happening. He has every screenshot I've collected so far, and I'm filling him in on any updates. I appreciate the advice, Bill. And that is where this story ends.
As Brittany John said in the chat, OP hit the Canadian divorce lottery.
Yeah. I am sorry you had to hit that lottery, but at least the divorce will be expedited.
Bing, 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 bing.
Bing, 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 bing. OP, you're really winning.
Yeah.
Wow. I do think where OP is winning is Father Award, because I think OP is really doing everything right in a extremely terrible situation.
Yeah.
Like, this is about as bad as it could be, and OP's making all the right moves. So shout out to him for doing that.
You know, when you're a great person in the worst of circumstances, that says a lot to one's character.
I completely agree. But yeah, I mean, that's where the story ends. I think, again, we go back to this question, should it be expected that parents have favorites in their children? And I think we get back to this point of, like, it may be natural to be gravitating to one kid or another. But if that ever comes out, obviously, in your actions, you need to do everything you can to scale that back and make sure that your children never feel like there's a favorite, because that's so damaging to self-esteem.
Super damaging.
Yeah.
I think treating kids like equitably, where like maybe one has, I don't know if they mentioned this, like an interest that you share. It's like, oh, hey, I'll do this, and I might have to be very mindful for the other kid that I might not have as much in common with, and maybe almost try a little bit more just because you lack that point of connection.
That's exactly what the last story was about. Yeah.
But and Josephine Madola Burquest, thanks for the 27 sec. All of this because her son likes cooking. Literally, she had a mental breakdown because her son likes cooking.
Get her out of my face.
If that isn't a misogynist, I don't know what is. But
ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the
Amen,
truth,
brother?
Well, I think that's where that ends. So if you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you, and see you tomorrow.